Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning to you. It is 6:06 and we are chugging along. Thanks for letting us be a part of your Monday morning in the nation's capital. Coming up, we'll talk to Joe DeGeneva about the legal news of the day. At 7:35, Jonathan Schanzer, Senior Vice President for Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He'll give us the latest on Syria. At 8:05, Zach Smith with the Heritage Foundation. He'll tell us about a big problem in D.C., that is metro fare evasion, costing the city $50 million. At 8:35, our friend Luke Rosiak, he's an investigative reporter with the Daily Wire. He'll tell us about the debate over DOGE pushing to make federal workers return to work. Big issue in this area. I'm Julie Gunlock alongside Hans von Spakovsky. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me back.
Obama gave a speech this weekend, former President Barack Obama. He was speaking at the Obama Foundation's Democracy Forum. Had a lot to say about civility. Let's play cut 5.
Is what we've seen here in the United States and in many democracies around the globe. Not just more gridlock, not just public cynicism, but an increasing willingness on the part of politicians and their followers to violate democratic norms, to do anything they can to get their way, to use the power of the state to target critics and journalists and political rivals, and to even resort to violence in order to gain and hold on to power.
It was hard for me to not talk during that because the nerve of that guy. You have written about this issue just recently at PJ Media about something that's going on outside a conservative's house, and that's quite uncivil, but I don't think we're going to hear anything from the left on that. Tell us about what you wrote.
Well, I will, but everything that Barack Obama is complaining about, he started when he was president.
Yes.
Including the weaponization of the Justice Department under Eric Holder.
Absolutely.
Well, Christian Adams and I just published a piece at PJ Media about the fact that Leonard Leo, former head of the Federalist Society, big conservative, and a big philanthropist, bought a home for himself and his family on an island off the coast of Maine, and he can't enjoy himself at his home because his neighbors, these crazy liberals, are protesting at his home. That they are out there with cowbells, making all kinds of noises, trying to convince him to leave the island. Not only that, but look, I've known Leonard Leo for years. He's a big philanthropist. And apparently he's had the gall to become one of the biggest charitable donors on the island. Apparently,
monster.
He supports the local library, the hospital, a housing trust, which is supposed to help people who are in need get housing. And these same protesters have been trying to get, for example, the Housing Trust to return his donation. In other words, I wonder, do they have the view that when the Housing Trust is helping people, they should first examine their politics? And if they have conservative views, obviously they don't deserve any charity.
Well, this is actually true. One resident, Susan Covino-Buell, you wrote about this. This is your words. I'm reading your article. She actually resigned her position on the island's housing trust because they took Leo's donation. And she does believe that you should consider the politics of givers before taking their donations.
Yeah, this is the kind of bad behavior that is ruining civility in this country. The view of these protesters there is that if you disagree with them on an issue, I don't care, Second Amendment, abortion, whatever, you must be an evil person, and you should not live in their neighborhood, attend their church, have your children in their schools. That's the attitude of the left these days.
Well, it is the attitude, and we've seen this on display with the death of the CEO of that healthcare company. There were celebrations in New York this weekend. There was a gathering to celebrate his death. There was actually a look-alike contest for the assassin. There's all these there's almost like a cult that's being developed around this assassin. There are pictures of him, and people are, commenting on how good looking he is or how he's got a great smile. It's sickening. And look, I will tell you, I live in Alexandria, and I live just a few miles away from that baseball field where a crazed Bernie bro tried to kill 24 Republican congressmen and senators. And I'm telling you, the overwhelming sense I got from the leftists in Alexandria, which is basically almost everybody who lives in Alexandria, was, well, they kind of deserved it. And to live in that kind of community is really difficult for me, but it is acceptable in the left. And so to hear Obama talk about civility is truly sickening, again, because he started it.
Yeah, he started it, and all the bad behavior he's talking about, he and his political party need to look in the mirror, because they are the ones who've been doing this, including, by the way, in your neighborhood, the way they've gone after J.D. Vance and his family.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was reading stories about the women in that neighborhood and how nasty they were on the playground.
On the playground.
On the playground.
Yeah.
To J.D. Vance's wife and their children.
They doxed him. I mean, there is one woman, her name is Becky Hammer, in Alexandria, who put up a social media post, standing with J.D. Vance's home behind her, and she put in red marker, this is his house. I mean, this was post-assassination attempt on President-elect Trump. I mean, these people are sickening. And we've seen other examples. I mean, remember Josh Hawley's wife? Right. She was in her home, and a group of protesters came to her home. She was home alone with her newborn daughter, banged on her door. Again, they had bullhorns. Tucker Carlson's wife, similar thing. Antifa showed up at his house and terrified his wife, who was, I think she closed herself in a closet and called the police. I mean, this is common on the left to harass public members and their families on the right. And then we see it on college campuses all the time with violence.
You're right. We need to go back to saying this is unacceptable. If you want to protest in the town square, that's where you do it. You don't do it at people's homes.
Sure. And maybe Obama should speak out
right.
on these specific cases of violence on the left towards conservatives, but he won't.
I don't seem to recall him saying anything about any of those cases.
No, he won't, and he will continue to pretend that he and the left are innocent in this. It's absolutely galling. It really is enraging.
It is. By the way, in Virginia, there's a law that prohibits protesting at people's homes, and the Soros-supported prosecutor in Fairfax County has refused to enforce it over the protests against Supreme Court justices.
That's right. I forgot to even mention the protesters showing up at Kavanaugh and Alito's house in Virginia. Yeah. Oh, well, I don't think Kavanaugh's in Virginia, but Alito is. Yeah. We'll have more on this, much more on this very frustrating. I got to simmer down here. But first, it is 6:15. Let's get over to Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So a lot of news on Syria over the weekend. President Assad has apparently fled to Russia with his Vogue model wife. Can't forget that. Biden reacted. Let's hear his reaction, cut 6.
With a new constitution, a new government that serves all Syrians. And this process will be determined by the Syrian people themselves. And the United States will do whatever we can to support them, including through humanitarian relief, to help restore Syria after more than a decade of war and generations of brutality by the Assad family.
Okay, let's just break that down, first of all, and let's remind people what's going on in Syria. First of all, Assad has fled. it's kind of left a vacuum there. But filling that vacuum are terrorist organizations, okay?
The head of which is a former member of Al Qaeda.
And then he like switched over to ISIS, to get even more insane, right? So this is not a good situation. You had a reporter from the Washington Post saying, "Oh, the people of Syria are free." There were some videos of Syrians in European countries celebrating, and it was really funny, actually. There was one video out of Ireland where this Irish guy goes, "So, you guys going back?" And they're like, "Oh, no, we're not going back." And it's probably because they know it's not as though, some wonderful sort of democratically elected figure has filled that void in Syria. No, again, it's a terrorist who is filling that void right now. So it's frustrating that Biden is like, we'll do whatever. Right. America will support, through our tax dollars, of course, support an ISIS and an Al-Qaeda veteran? What are you talking about?
Well, I was looking at him, and I was looking at Biden making this speech. I was thinking, boy, he looks a lot like Jimmy Carter. And the reason why I said that was because it's like history's repeating itself. Yeah, the Shah of Iran, yes, he was a dictator, but what replaced him was so much worse. A terrorist regime that has repressed its people much worse than the Shah did, and it seems like we're getting exactly the same thing in Syria.
Well, and particularly for women in Iran.
Yes.
Similar sort of reaction, or I saw this was actually Trump speaking about Syria. I don't think this was recent. I think this was years ago. This seemed a lot better idea to me. Let's hear what Trump said about sort of the infighting in Syria a few years ago. Cut 7.
So Taliban is our enemy. ISIS is our enemy. We have an area that I brought up with our generals 4 or 5 weeks ago where Taliban is here, ISIS is here, and they're fighting each other. I said, why don't you let them fight? Why are we getting in the middle of it? I said, let them fight. They're both our enemies. Let them fight. Sir, we want to do it. They go in and they end up fighting both of them. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I think I would have been a good general, but who knows?
It makes a lot more sense. Why are we so according to Biden, we're going to prop up this terrorist who's in charge of Syria right now, do whatever we can. I'm not even going to start on the conditions in North Carolina right now, but everybody in the back of their mind should be thinking about the people of North Carolina who are freezing and living in tents while Biden is pledging, billions of dollars for Syria. But again, Trump's idea of let them fight, that seems like a much better foreign policy to me.
Well, yeah, I got to agree with that. And Biden, again, seems to have no grasp of the reality of the situation, which shouldn't be a surprise to any of us.
You've heard some neocons talking about how we have to prevent some of the criminals from being released from some of the Syrian jails. We've also heard we have to help the Christians, as if Assad was somehow beneficial to Christians in the region. I agree that this terrorist who may take over Syria is no friend to Christians and will probably lead to some horrible humanitarian outcomes. But Assad was brutal to the Christians and brutal to the Kurds. And so, again, we are not swapping. Our intervention there would support another dictatorship with potentially worse outcomes, given that they are a terrorist organization.
Not just that, but they're a Islamist jihadist group. And we should expect to see Syria become just like Iran is today, a worldwide sponsor of terrorism that totally represses its people, including its women, citizens, and that it'll be even worse than Assad was.
Well, really quickly, I think this is a good way to sort of put a sort of bow on top of this. We had just talked about Obama speaking about civility, which is only appropriate if he puts a mirror in front of him while giving that speech. But let's not forget the situation in Syria is because of Obama. That red line speech, when Assad gassed his own people, and Obama said that is a line you cannot cross, and he crossed that line, and then Obama said, "Never mind,
No, we're not going to do anything.
We're not going to do anything."
And look, look, Assad was a really bad guy, but on the other hand, he had, in essence, maintained peace with Israel. And anybody who expects this group, once they've taken over Syria, to do that, this makes that situation probably even worse.
It's 6:23.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning. It is 6:37 on a busy Monday morning. Are you up? Are you getting ready? Hans and I we're on, our 15th cup of coffee here. So get up, get ready. Thanks for letting us be a part of your routine. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGenova on the legal news of the day. 7:35, Jonathan Schanzer. He's Senior Vice President for Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He'll give us the latest on Syria. And at 8:05, Zach Smith. He's with the Heritage Foundation. He'll tell us about a big problem in D.C., Metro fare evasion. It's an interesting story. And at 8:35, Luke Rosiak. He's an investigative reporter at Daily Wire. He'll tell us about the debate over DOGE pushing to make federal workers return to work. I love the word DOGE. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for Larry, alongside Hans von Spakovsky. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Julie. And are we like almost halfway done now, right?
Almost, not quite. Almost. So on Mondays, we usually go over what happened on the weekend shows. And this weekend did not disappoint. Over on Meet the Press, host Kristen Welker had Trump on, and it was a really interesting interview. Trump was masterful, really handled her well. Let's listen to Cut 10 when the issue of Liz Cheney came up.
Let me ask you about some of this new reporting. NBC News is reporting that President Biden is considering giving preemptive pardons to the likes of Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. If President Biden doesn't issue those pardons, do you think they are going to wish that he had? Are they going to be pursued?
I can tell you this about Cheney, and she's a so-called Republican. I think she hurt the Democrats terribly. When I saw that Kamala put Cheney out on the campaign trail, I said, that's the end of Kamala. I really did. I thought it was a terrible move, especially if you're a Democrat. But Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. Wait. They deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They happen to be slightly younger than me, maybe, just a little bit. Let me just tell you. They testified. They said it was total. And all of this stuff came out. People lied so badly. Now, listen, this was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir?
And Cheney was behind it. And so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say that, it carries weight, though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
You got to love the sudden concern for lawfare, which it's not lawfare. Frankly, I think that this is a legitimate thing. Those committee members misled the American public, destroyed evidence, got people to lie. We know that Liz Cheney and Alyssa Farrar and Cassidy Hutchins were all sort of in cahoots. So I do think that this is legitimate. But Welker is certainly casting this like it's lawfare, and she's suddenly concerned about it.
Yeah, something that they've totally ignored during the entire Biden administration. They just weren't interested in the Justice Department being used against its political opponents, which happened. It wasn't just with Donald Trump. It was in so many other areas that this also happened, including, as you know, the abusive prosecutions under the FACE Act, they just sent to prison a grandmother who had suffered during the Holocaust. I mean, now suddenly she's concerned about this?
Yeah, exactly. There's more. Let's play cut 11.
Biden can give him a pardon if he wants to, and maybe he should. Just remember, unselect committee, a year and a half of sworn testimony, and after getting all of the testimony, they deleted it, and they destroyed almost everything. There's nothing left. It's unprecedented.
And they deny
doing that. If you do
that
in a civil case, you go to jail.
They deny doing that. And officials say that the order never came in for the National Guard.
A statement.
On January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're going to want to
Thompson
answer
wrote
this.
in a statement that he has destroyed all evidence.
Let me ask you this about
It's
January
amazing.
6th.
I wish you could be you have such potential. If you could be just non-biased, you hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off like it doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
Kristen, if I did it, you would be standing up in that chair shouting at me. And you know what I'd do? I'd say, you got me.
We've got more on this. We're going to continue this in the next segment, but I am so glad he called her out. You slough this off. If I had done this, you would be on top of that chair screaming at me. And I'm so glad that he called her out on that.
Well, I'm just astonished at her too, because as you know, one of the House committees was trying to get the J6 documents, and we're told, they're gone.
They're gone.
So how can she say, they deny it? She's a reporter. She's not just supposed to take at face value.
Right.
They say, could perhaps maybe she do a little investigation?
Yeah, just a little bit. We'll continue talking about this coming up in the next segment. It is 6:43.
Later this morning on the Chris Plante Show, the Washington Post wants to know, when a CEO was killed, why did some people celebrate? They're all Democrats. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
You have such potential. If you could be just non-biased, you hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off like it doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
They deny it. They deny it. You had interesting thoughts on that.
Well, I thought she was a journalist, right? You don't just take things like that at face value. If she'd done just a teeny little bit of investigation, she would have discovered all the facts, which is that when one of the House committees trying to take a look at this wanted to get all the documents, everything else, they were told by the J6 committee, this is all gone.
Benny Thompson said, we deleted it. I mean, they might act like it's a mistake, but they deleted it.
Yeah, so how in the world can she just say that? And as the president says, she just sloughs it off like it's
no big deal.
Nothing.
And it is more accusatory to him. Right. And again, we also have evidence now. There were found texts between Liz Cheney and Alyssa Farrar and Cassidy Hutchins, and changing the testimony and working. Liz Cheney had no business reaching out to a witness, and she did. This committee, the January 6th committee, was a complete fraud. It was designed basically to hurt Trump.
Yeah, what she did was called witness tampering, and that's the kind of thing the Justice Department usually prosecutes people for. Look, if anybody wonders why Americans have lost such confidence in what everybody calls, the mainstream media. This interview is a prime example of why that is.
Well, I watched this interview, and we're going to get to some additional cuts here really quickly, but is she stuck? And I mean, she has learned nothing from this election. She's not looking at the polling, which says the American public does not trust the mainstream. She's learned nothing. Let's go on. And she brought up Christopher Wray, and I love this. She's like, so are you going to fire the guy who invaded your home? I mean, complete mind-boggling. Cut 12.
Are you going to fire the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it. He invaded Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he's done. And crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're going to talk.
Okay, I mean, I just can't even believe the way in which she asked the question. Like, are you going to get? It's just sort of this wide-eyed shock that he would even consider getting rid of Christopher Wray, who's been a disaster.
Where has she been when, over the past few years, as the FBI, unfortunately, has also been politicized? We have had whistleblowers talking about, particularly in the FBI field office in Washington, about how people there were making decisions based on politics, not the interests of justice. Has she just ignored all that? Not seen all that? Does she just not want to see it?
Christopher Wray has done more to harm the FBI and the reputation of that agency. It's actually really quite tragic. Christopher Wray, let's not forget, also went up on Capitol Hill, and when asked about the bullet that whizzed past and actually made contact with Trump's ear and would have killed him had he not moved his head at the last minute, Christopher Wray goes, we don't know. We don't know if it was a bullet. When they knew it was a bullet. Also, Christopher Wray has it's impossible. I don't have enough time to go through the list of things that he's done to harm that agency. I just want to get to this last cut because, again, it shows how out of touch she is. Cut 13.
When you think about your time in office, you are making history for a range of reasons, including the fact you will be the oldest person to be sworn into office. Do you commit to releasing your medical records?
Sure. I do it all the time. I think I've released 4 of them.
Not just a letter, though, your full medical report.
Yeah, I would, and I think anybody should, but I mean, according to all the reports, I don't want to, where's wood? Is there some wood where I can knock on wood?
Okay, so again, I just had to play that because, again, she's suddenly worried about age. She's suddenly worried about medical records. This is a woman who ignored Biden bumbling around the White House for years, and now, and again, it's kind of stuck. Like, what are you doing?
Right. Did she ever, in the last 4 years, ask Joe Biden to release his full medical records? I don't seem to recall hearing that from her.
We've got more coming up. It is 6:54.